Anansi and the pot of beans. Once upon a time, in a village nestled deep within the heart of the African forest, lived Anansi the spider, known for his cunning and trickery. Anansi was small and seemingly insignificant, but his sharp wit and clever mind made him a formidable presence among the animals and people of the village. Anansi had a great desire for food, especially for beans, which were considered a delicacy. His wife, Aso, was an excellent cook, and her pot of beans was renowned throughout the village. Anansi, being ever so greedy, often found himself daydreaming about devouring a whole pot of beans by himself. But Aso was wise to his tricks and always made sure to serve the beans in small portions, ensuring that everyone in the family had their fair share. One hot and sunny afternoon, as Anansi lounged under the shade of a big baobab tree, he began to plot how he could get his hands on an entire pot of beans without sharing with anyone. He pondered and schemed, and soon, a devious plan formed in his mind. That very evening, Anansi approached Aso as she prepared dinner. With his most charming smile, he said, "My dear Aso, I have been thinking. You work so hard every day, cooking and taking care of our home. You deserve a break. How about tomorrow you go visit your sister in the next village? I can take care of everything here." Aso, though surprised by Anansi's sudden show of concern, was touched by his words. She had indeed been wanting to see her sister for some time. "Thank you, Anansi," she replied. "That sounds like a wonderful idea. I will prepare the pot of beans for you before I leave, so you won't have to worry about cooking." Anansi's eyes gleamed with excitement, but he hid it well, nodding appreciatively. "You are too kind, my dear. I will make sure everything is in order while you are away." The next morning, Aso rose early and prepared a large pot of beans, enough to last several days. She placed it on the stove, letting it simmer to perfection. As the aroma filled the air, Anansi could barely contain his anticipation. Soon, Aso was ready to leave. She gave Anansi a warm hug and a few last-minute instructions before setting off for her sister's village. As soon as Aso was out of sight, Anansi sprang into action. He rushed to the kitchen, grabbed the pot of beans, and scurried off into the forest, where he found a secluded spot. There, he placed the pot down and began to feast. The beans were delicious, and Anansi ate and ate until he could eat no more. His belly full and his heart content, he leaned back and let out a satisfied sigh. But Anansi was not just a trickster, he was also a hoarder. He didn't want to risk anyone finding out about his secret stash of beans. So, he dug a hole in the ground and buried the pot, covering it carefully with leaves and branches. Satisfied that his treasure was safe, he returned to the village, his mind already concocting excuses for the missing pot of beans. Days passed, and Aso returned from her visit. She immediately noticed the empty pot in the kitchen. "Anansi," she called, "what happened to the pot of beans I left for you?" Anansi, ever the smooth talker, had his story ready. "Oh, my dear Aso," he began, "you would not believe what happened. I was carrying the pot outside to enjoy the fresh air while eating, but I tripped and fell. The pot broke, and the beans spilled everywhere. I am so sorry. I meant to tell you, but I was too embarrassed." Aso was disappointed but not entirely surprised. She knew Anansi well and suspected there was more to the story, but she decided to let it go. "It's all right, Anansi," she said with a sigh. "Accidents happen, but please be more careful next time." Anansi nodded, feigning remorse. But inside, he was gloating. His plan had worked perfectly. He now had a hidden stash of beans that he could enjoy whenever he wanted. However, Anansi's greed soon got the better of him. Each day, he sneaked into the forest to dig up the pot and eat more beans. He became so consumed by his secret that he grew careless. One day, as he sat by his buried treasure, feasting on the beans, he failed to notice that he was being watched. A village boy named Kwaku had been following Anansi out of curiosity. He had always been intrigued by the spider's antics and wanted to see what he was up to. When Kwaku saw Anansi digging up the pot of beans and eating them greedily, he knew he had discovered something important. Kwaku ran back to the village and told the elders what he had seen. The elders were wise and knew that Anansi's tricks often caused trouble. They decided to confront him and put an end to his deceit. The next day, the elders summoned Anansi to the village square. "Anansi," they said sternly, "we have heard troubling news. It seems you have been hiding a pot of beans in the forest and eating them in secret. Is this true?" Anansi's heart raced, but he tried to play innocent. "Oh, wise elders," he said, "I do not know what you are talking about. I have no pot of beans hidden anywhere." But Kwaku stepped forward and pointed at Anansi. "I saw you, Anansi," he declared. "I saw you digging up the pot and eating the beans. You cannot deny it." The villagers murmured among themselves, their suspicions confirmed. The elders looked at Anansi with disappointment. "Anansi," they said, "your greed has caused you to lie and deceive. You have taken more than your fair share and hidden it away. This is not the way of our village. Anansi hung his head, knowing he had been caught. The elders decided that as punishment, Anansi would have to share the pot of beans with the entire village. They made him dig up the pot and bring it to the village square, where everyone could see. Reluctantly, Anansi retrieved the pot and carried it back to the village. The villagers gathered around as the pot was opened, revealing the remaining beans inside. The elders distributed the beans evenly among everyone, ensuring that each person got a fair share. As Anansi watched his precious beans being shared, he realized the error of his ways. His greed had not only caused him to deceive his wife and the villagers, but it had also left him with nothing. He had thought only of himself and not of the community. The elders, seeing Anansi's remorse, decided to give him another chance. Anansi, they said, we hope you have learned from this experience. Greed and deceit will only lead to trouble. It is better to share and live in harmony with others. Anansi nodded, humbled by the wisdom of the elders. He promised to change his ways and be more considerate in the future. From that day on, Anansi became known not just for his cunning tricks but also for his generosity and willingness to share. The village prospered, and Anansi learned that true happiness came not from hoarding treasures but from being part of a caring and supportive community. And so, the tale of Anansi and the pot of beans was passed down through generations, a reminder of the importance of honesty, sharing, and thinking of others. Anansi's cleverness was admired, but it was his transformation into a kinder, more selfless character that truly made him a legend in the hearts of the people. The tale of Anansi and the pot of beans did not end there, for Anansi's adventures and mischief continued to shape the lives of the villagers in unexpected ways. The consequence of greed. The lesson Anansi learned about greed lingered in his mind, and he genuinely tried to adhere to the wisdom the elders imparted. But the inherent nature of a trickster is difficult to suppress entirely. He found himself once more yearning for a way to outsmart others, not for selfish gain this time, but out of sheer enjoyment of the game. One day, while wandering near the edge of the village, Anansi encountered a tortoise named Kwaku. Kwaku was known for his slow and steady approach to life, and he often ridiculed Anansi for his hasty and impulsive actions. Anansi, Kwaku said with a sly grin, you may be clever, but you lack wisdom. A steady mind always wins over a quick one. Anansi, feeling the sting of Kwaku's words, challenged him to a contest. Kwaku, let's see if your slow mind can outwit my quick one. Let's have a race, but not just any race. We'll race to the river and back, and the winner will be crowned the wisest in the village. Kwaku agreed, and they set the race for the following morning. As the sun began to rise, the villagers gathered to witness the unusual contest. Anansi and Kwaku stood side by side, ready to start. When the signal was given, Anansi dashed off, leaving Kwaku far behind. The villagers watched in amusement, knowing Anansi's propensity for underestimating others, but Kwaku had a plan. He knew Anansi's competitive nature and decided to use it against him. As Anansi raced ahead, Kwaku quietly took a different path, one that was longer but less strenuous. He moved steadily, conserving his energy and keeping a steady pace. Anansi, confident in his lead, stopped to rest near the river, thinking he had plenty of time. He even took a nap, sure that Kwaku was far behind. When he finally woke up, he leisurely continued back to the village, but as he approached the finish line, he was shocked to see Kwaku crossing it, greeted by the cheers of the villagers. How is this possible? Anansi exclaimed, panting heavily. Kwaku smiled and replied, Anansi, wisdom is not just about speed but about strategy and patience. While you were racing and tiring yourself out, I took a steady path and conserved my strength. Anansi, though embarrassed, acknowledged Kwaku's wisdom. The villagers praised Kwaku for his cleverness, and Anansi learned another valuable lesson about the balance between quick thinking and thoughtful planning. The return of the beans months passed, and the memory of the pot of beans incident faded. Anansi continued to live in the village, respected for his cunning but now more mindful of his actions. However, his love for beans never diminished. One fateful day, Anansi stumbled upon a peculiar situation. While exploring the outskirts of the village, Anansi heard a soft, sorrowful melody. Following the sound, he found an old woman sitting by a large, empty pot. Her face was wrinkled with age, and her eyes glistened with tears. Anansi's curiosity got the better of him, and he approached her. Good day, grandmother, Anansi said gently. Why are you crying? The old woman looked up at Anansi and sighed. Ah, dear Anansi, I am the spirit of the harvest. This pot was once filled with beans, enough to feed the entire village. But the pot has been empty for many moons, and without the beans, the village will suffer during the dry season. Anansi's heart softened. He remembered the joy and satisfaction of the beans he had once selfishly hoarded. He knew he had to help. Grandmother, he said earnestly, I will find a way to fill your pot with beans again. The spirit of the harvest smiled sadly. To refill the pot, you must plant the seeds of generosity, water them with kindness, and nurture them with patience. Only then will the pot be full once more. Anansi nodded, determined to fulfill this task. He returned to the village and gathered everyone in the square. He recounted the tale of the spirit of the harvest and the empty pot. The villagers listened intently, understanding the gravity of the situation. Together, they began to plant beans in the fertile soil around the village. Anansi led by example, working tirelessly alongside his fellow villagers. Each day, they tended to the crops with care, sharing stories, laughter, and hopes for the future. As the days turned into weeks, the seeds of generosity began to sprout. The villagers' kindness and hard work paid off, and the bean plants flourished. Anansi, who once sought beans for himself, now found joy in the collective effort and the unity it brought to the community. Finally, the day came when the beans were ready for harvest. The villagers gathered once more, and Anansi led the way to the spirit of the harvest. They filled her pot with the freshly harvested beans, and as they did, a radiant smile spread across her face. Anansi, she said, her voice filled with gratitude, you have shown great change and growth. The pot is full, and the village will prosper. Remember, true abundance comes from unity and selflessness. The villagers cheered, and Anansi felt a profound sense of fulfillment. He had not only redeemed himself but had also strengthened the bonds within the community. The legacy of Anansi, the story of Anansi and the pot of beans became a cherished legend in the village, passed down through generations. Anansi's transformation from a cunning trickster to a wise and selfless leader was a source of inspiration for all. As the years went by, Anansi continued to use his cleverness for the benefit of the village. He helped resolve disputes, find solutions to problems, and even entertained the children with his tales of adventure and wisdom. He became a beloved figure, known not just for his wit but for his heart. The village thrived, and the lessons of generosity, kindness, and unity were woven into the fabric of their daily lives. The spirit of the harvest's pot remained full, a symbol of the community's collective effort and the enduring legacy of Anansi. And so, the tale of Anansi and the pot of beans lived on, a timeless reminder of the power of change, the value of sharing, and the importance of thinking of others. Anansi's name became synonymous with not just cleverness but with the wisdom and warmth that came from living a life of true abundance.
Thanks for watching. For more content, subscribe to our channel, like, share, and comment on this video.